In a twist of fate that neither of us anticipated, our routine hospital visit turned into a life-altering revelation. When an emergency prompted a sudden room swap between me and my husband, what seemed like a minor inconvenience quickly unraveled into a shocking truth about my mother-in-law. As the walls of the hospital room closed in, the secrets that had long been buried began to surface, exposing a family dynamic far more complicated than I had ever imagined. The flavor of this breakfast soup is a little off. It is excessively thin. Why is everything the way it is? Yes, it isn't that excellent. Is there a way to thicken it? But keep in mind that I must use salt with caution, just as the physician stated. Is that really that important to anyone? Strong flavors are something I really enjoy. My mother-in-law is the one who always has complaints about the food. Charlotte. Her favorite food is always highly seasoned. Nevertheless, she nearly has diabetes and is overweight. Despite her doctor's warnings, she seems unconcerned and seasons everything excessively. I prepare food. The amount of salt and pepper she added to the soup surprised me. I took great care, despite the fact that I use less salt in my seasonings and salt. For her, it seems like there's never enough. If she continues to eat this way, I'm afraid she might become seriously ill. To be honest, if something were to happen to her, I wouldn't be too upset. Charlotte seems to take pleasure in giving me trouble. She's mean and always complaining. I go by Mila. At the age of 29, I work and take care of the house. We haven't had children in our 3 years of marriage. The issue is that my spouse will never let me forget that I am unable to become a mother. If you are a childless woman, you are worthless. You're broken, he would say. You should be grateful just to be allowed in this house, she would say. You're accurate. We've tried so hard and I still can't conceive, and for that I am broken. Talk about being taken advantage of. Heh, how are you able to say that? My partner chuckled. Because, Neil continued, a woman who is incapable of bearing children is done for. Mom, you're correct. My spouse concurred. Go through that. I'm damaged. Really, I'd like a baby. I've been trying everything, including going to the doctor while working, but nothing has been successful. It drains you emotionally and physically. I've made the decision to discontinue the treatment. In addition, it's costly and difficult to maintain, years at a time. My spouse used to argue that there was no purpose to investing money in fertility treatments. However, he also pressured me to become pregnant soon. I don't need to be under any pressure. Just because you want me to get pregnant doesn't mean I can. After giving up on the therapy, I considered being content with my spouse and myself. However, my mother-in-law continued to wish for a grandchild to make fun of me. She even purchased diapers, which she flaunted with pride. She said, "Look, I got diapers," with excitement. "One day, you'll need them." Heh. Mel, are those not a little too small for you? I laughed it off too. "These are for a baby, hey? Do you not see that?" she answered. "I mean, I have no idea. I am the shattered woman who is unable to conceive." I shot back with sarcasm. "That's sufficient?" My mother-in-law stormed to her room angrily, thankfully. Already worn out from work, I decided I didn't want to put up with her hurtful remarks any longer. She seems to be content to ruin my life rather than doing anything else. After my father-in-law passed away a year ago, we moved in with my in-laws. Back then, my mother-in-law was inconsolable. Her doctor alerted her to the possibility of diabetes around the same time. It's the reason we moved in. My spouse wished to help his mother, but she manages her diabetes well enough as long as she takes her medicine and eats a healthy diet. Nothing to be concerned about. Okay, so she needs whatever she wants and frequently forgets to take her medications. Therefore, even if that does happen, her condition may eventually get worse. I genuinely don't want to be in charge of looking after my mother-in-law. I'm in my 20s, still working and very busy taking care of my in-laws. Thank you, not at all. I spent the following day, which was my day off, cleaning the house. Normally, my mother-in-law would just lounge on the sofa and munch, but she abruptly got up and entered my room. My hands were full, so I kept quiet even though I didn't want her in there. She said, "I cleaned your room for you." With a suspicious feeling, I said, "Thanks. Maybe my husband and I should switch rooms. You already know that you'll draw bugs into your messy room." She laughed. "Yes." Feeling uncertain about her intentions, I replied, "Enjoy your clean room." The fact that my mother-in-law appeared appreciative of me only made her actions more dubious. I sensed she was planning something. I made the decision to spend the night in my husband's room. He wouldn't know, having been away on business since yesterday, even in case he discovers. I was sure he wouldn't be angry. I thus made my decision. Since I work regular hours as a nurse, our bedrooms are not together. Our relationship has cooled off, which contributes to part of it. Mostly, though, it's because I don't want to wake him up during my night shifts. I bided my time until my in-laws retired to their rooms. I then proceeded to my spouse's room. All right, she is in her chamber. It's time for me to go to bed as well. I pondered. I consequently spent 2 days sleeping in my husband's room. I appeared too happy, and my mother-in-law began to suspect something was off. She started posing odd queries. "Are you certain there isn't any discomfort or anything else going on?" she inquired. "By what do you mean?" I answered, averting her eyes. She said, "Oh, never mind," ending the conversation. Was there anything on her mind to ponder? Avoiding making eye contact? Merely my mother-in-law prepared her dinner. That particular day, I worked the night shift, so my plan was to unwind at home before going to work. I can't really unwind, though, because my mother-in-law never lends a hand around the house. She likes to read Japanese comics for women and eat snacks while sitting on the couch and giving me advice. She's probably planning her next move, reading to irritate her annoying daughter-in-law. I took a quick look at her comics cover. The English title of the story was Epic Mother and Daughter-in-Law, A Swamp Battle. The selection of books she had chosen made me roll my eyes. My husband eventually got back from his business trip, but by then it was 10 p.m. "Oh my, I'm so tired," he said. "I'm going to take a bath." "Yes, I will warm it up for you. Drink a beer and bide your time," I recommended. "I will, thank you." "Wait, what?" "It is not advisable to consume alcohol right before a bath." "All right, then I'll have a non-alcoholic beer." He listened to my warning about the risks of combining alcohol and hot water and reluctantly agreed. He ought to be more aware of this. Signs cautioning against entering even exist for saunas. If you're intoxicated, however, no. For him and my mother-in-law, common sense isn't that common. My husband then took a bath and broke into a loud song. Our house is a single-family residence. "But our neighbors won't be happy if we start singing at this hour. La 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 la. You're too loud, I say." "Shut it," I said. He shot back. "You're the one being loud." My mother-in-law entered the restroom to join in after I discreetly warned him to stop singing. "Mason is merely attempting to sing for fun." "What is the issue with that?" says she. "How come? It seems like you're not sure how to handle your spouse properly. Constantly so whiny and uncaring." I got admonished by my mother-in-law. "Hey, I'm not the one who moans all the time." I answered, "Charlotte, you're definitely not cute when you talk back. Not that you were ever particularly beautiful." She scoffed. "I'm cool with that. I would most likely be considered a stunning beauty in another nation." Not to worry. Following that, my spouse exited the bathtub and began consuming alcohol. By now, it was 10:30 p.m., and I had to depart for my place of employment, the hospital. I have to leave early because there's a lot to do, even though it's close by. I've been sleeping in your room, by the way. Could you please spend the night in my bed? My clothes are smeared everywhere. I told my husband about it. Apologies. Does it concern me? He answered. All right, I'm leaving. Next, be careful. I told my husband in a whisper so Charlotte wouldn't hear, right before I packed my bags and headed out. My husband groaned loudly and I heard it. Mason. He was moaning and curled up on the floor, clinging to his leg. He appeared to be in great pain. Charlotte became pale and began to feel anxious. What's taking place? Speak, she demanded. He couldn't say a word, no matter what I asked. There was no response. I felt like I needed to do something, but then I noticed something strange. The floor was unusually slippery, even though I was wearing socks. It felt like I could easily fall. What on earth is this? I exclaimed. What did you do? Charlotte, I demanded. I didn't do anything. It's not my fault, Charlotte protested, blaming my mother-in-law. But blaming her wouldn't solve anything at that moment, so I immediately called an ambulance. My husband was taken straight to our hospital, and work was the last thing on my mind. Even after we arrived, he kept clutching his leg, visibly sweating in pain. It hurts so bad, Mason. Hang in there, please, I pleaded. Thankfully, a doctor was able to examine him, and he seemed a bit relieved. His leg was indeed broken, just as we suspected. It was a 5th metatarsal fracture, which made sense given how he slipped on that slick floor. His foot was visibly swollen. Usually people get this kind of fracture by tripping or putting too much weight on it. Speaking from my own experience, I twisted my ankle falling downstairs years ago. I heard a loud snap and the pain was unbearable. I was also diagnosed with a 5th metatarsal fracture. I was lost in music while Mason downstairs, so it was quite embarrassing. I even lied to my close friends about it. Since his fracture didn't need hospitalization, my husband could come home. I was supposed to work a night shift, but my nursing supervisor insisted that I take the night off. It was a life-threatening, but I guess she was genuinely worried. I survived, but now I've got a fever. My husband remarked, "Well, you broke your leg, so getting a fever isn't surprising. But why was the floor so slippery? Maybe we should ask Charlotte about that," I recommended. "Hey, what did you do to the floor in the room?" I confronted Charlotte. "Well, the floor was slippery. That's why I slipped and fell. I could have seriously hurt myself," my husband interjected. "That room is for my daughter-in-law." So I greased the floor. I was hoping she would slip, so I put a lot of grease on the floor. "I never expected you to go in there and slip," Mila confessed. "Oh, unbelievable," I exclaimed. "It turns out my mother-in-law intentionally greased the floor to make me fall. She had claimed to have cleaned the room, but her actual intention was to harm me. I'm furious. If I had entered that room, I could have been seriously injured. Breaking a leg would be the least of my worries. Hitting my head could have been fatal. My mother-in-law's actions are practically criminal. You're despicable. You're not even family to me anymore. I got seriously hurt because of you. I'm going to the police," I declared. "Wait a minute. I didn't directly cause any harm, did I? Your wife is the one to blame. She told you to enter her room, didn't she? So this is all her fault," Charlotte retorted. "Shut up! That isn't the main idea! You're getting arrested!" My husband furiously dialed the police. My mother-in-law tried to snatch the phone away but couldn't overpower him, even with a broken leg. My husband was desperately holding on to his phone, talking to the police. I couldn't help but wish I was at work or even at the hospital, instead of dealing with this mess. Neighbors will eventually hear about this horrifying situation since she almost injured me too. Maybe I should also involve the police. We don't know for sure, but she might be charged with attempted harm. "Hold on. Now I don't want to go to the police," Mel protested. "Really? You knew the risks when you did this. Or did you think you could just make me disappear from this world?" I lost my temper. "Well, I did think it would be better if he just disappeared." "Whoa, you're the worst. Your mindset is criminal." "Personally, I wish you just stay in jail forever," sneered Mel. "Let us file for divorce," I declared. "How come? I can't keep living like this if I stay in this house. One day, I might really be in danger. I can't bear to live with that fearfully. Besides, I'm at a loss for how much morality you still possess." I gave an explanation. "Hold on. Do not say, 'We're going to divorce over this.' My spouse begged me about this. You called me names, denigrated me. Do you have any idea how painful that is? I'll be just fine without you," I said emphatically. "No, you're necessary to me. I was reliant on your earnings. I even signed a contract for a new car. I've been wanting a Toyota Century from Japan for a very long time." My spouse objected. "I no longer give a damn," I uttered, filled with resolve. I swept the slime from the floor and hurriedly put my things in a bag. I removed my wedding ring and set it on the table, packing even more into my carry-on, while rummaging through a plate-filled shelf. I either found the divorce papers or considered bringing them. The divorce decree you previously wrote. Do you recall how you wrote that? "We're getting a divorce if I can't conceive in the next 2 years. Regards. Now that I'm childless, let's get a divorce." With the papers in my hand, I declared. I continued, "You must feel relieved now. Hold on. And what about my century's loan?" my hubby inquired. "Who gives a damn?" I shot back snarkily. I headed straight to the hospital after leaving the house. When I arrived, the kind charge nurse didn't ask many questions. She appeared to comprehend my motivations. I don't need a husband to support me because I'm a nurse. I questioned why I put up with my in-laws' cruel remarks and poor treatment. I made the decision to quit thinking about the situation and concentrate only on my work because it seemed absurd. I filed for divorce the following morning, and he is currently my ex-husband. He really hurt me emotionally. so I spoke with a lawyer about filing a claim for damages. I couldn't help but think when my ex-husband was forced to pay me in the end. Fits you perfectly. It appears that my mother-in-law has been shunned by the neighbors ever since the police got involved because she admitted why my ex-husband broke his bone. It makes sense that everyone believes she is a bad parent. It appears that my ex-husband has kicked her out and no longer wants to be involved with her, despite the fact that there is a program for survivors' benefits. It pays me very little. She has been sobbing over the impossibility of living alone. She enjoys eating a lot, and our grocery bills were ridiculous as a result of her. Living off of the survivor's benefit alone would therefore require leading a very frugal life. Regarding my former spouse, I no longer give a damn about his future. He said something about getting a car loan, but I'm not sure what came of that. I figured with his pay, he wouldn't be able to afford it. I was very irritated with him because he took me for granted and assumed I would give him money. He's not a particularly wealthy man, but he's the kind who will buy a new car without giving it much thought. Later, I began dating a hospital doctor, and 2 years later, we were blessed with a child and got married, which felt like a miracle in the end. I've experienced. I promise to give my family my all going forward.